Welcome to the second workshop session today. I know these are back to back, so I'm just coming up from the earlier workshop. But yeah, as I wait for Ohad to share presentation. Yeah, so thank you everyone again. So this is our second workshop for the day. This workshop will be focused on API management, and I have Ohad Yehudai, who is principal solutions engineer from SnapLogic, who will be presenting and giving his insights. And he has over 2 years, 2 decades of experience with technology and software companies working with a variety of platforms, including API management platforms. And he has spent years involved in hands-on software development. So he knows the how much effort goes into building the products, and is really passionate about creating value for the for customers. That's why he's one of a solutions architect focusing on the integration space. So thank you very much, Ohad.
Thank you.
Up to
Welcome.
you.
Welcome. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining today. I think we wanted to address this.
Yeah. So we want to start off with this poll question. So if you can go to the polls tab and please provide your feedback. So the question is, what is the most important reason for your organization to require API management solution? And you have 5 options here, and we'll wait for maybe 30-40 seconds. So please provide your feedback and your responses. All right. So yeah, so we have even set of responses across the first four, maybe edging maybe more people. So around 33% of folks saying that okay, they need to empower multiple internal teams and manage quality of service, and also they need to secure APIs. That is option 4, that are exposed to customers and partners. So thank you for your input, and after you, Ohad.
Thank you. Before we address this question, let's discuss the importance of APIs. APIs are the glue that connects applications and people across the organization or across the internet. Users interact with your organization's data via web applications and mobile apps. The organizations conduct business with customers, vendors, and partners. The Internet of Things is another example. All of these are enabled with APIs. API management sits on top of these APIs. It provides last mile security, such as with OAuth, rate limiting, and so on. The developer portal accelerates the adoption of internal and external application developers, aka API consumers. Finally, API analytics provides insight for your API managers and API developers into API adoption as well as performance. This slide illustrates the 3 personas we were just talking about. SnapLogic enables all of them. SnapLogic allows you to create the APIs, apply policies, then manage different versions to be deployed, and also publish documentation to the developer portal. Finally, the API dashboard provides metrics. The Open API specification, previously known as the Swagger specification, is a spec for machine-readable interface files for describing, producing, consuming, and visualizing RESTful web services. SnapLogic supports design-first API creation, wherein a stub.pipeline pipeline is auto-generated. Then the API developer further develops that pipeline, adding the additional snaps that read and or write to targeted data endpoints. In the pipeline first approach, the API developer creates the entire pipeline that embodies the API from scratch. The Open API spec is created as they prepare to publish that version of the API. Apply and configure the policies. Create a new API version as part of API lifecycle management, then deploy it and publish it to the developer portal. The developer portal can be branded and categories of APIs can be defined to organize it. The Open API spec is used to publish the details of the API's operation. In an upcoming release, we're adding a try it capability, making it even easier for an app developer to really kick the tires, so to speak. API dashboard provides a rich graphical view wherein the data can be exported. API managers get insights into how APIs are being consumed, and API developers get feedback into the performance of their APIs. You can also view the status for each request, whether it was successful or if there was an error that may have been triggered by a rate limiting policy, as you're seeing in this example. So let's first talk about the SnapLogic general deployment architecture to understand where API management fits within that. So SnapLogic's control plane or management plane lives in our public cloud in AWS. As part of that, we expose that rich HTML5 UI that's always on, browser-based, where you design, manage, and monitor your platform. Where you design pipelines, manage your integration assets, fine-grained role-based access control, as well as monitoring the overall health of the platform. So the different things that you want to integrate, some of them live in the public cloud, right, north of the firewall. You know, these include SaaS applications or cloud data warehouse endpoints and so forth, or external REST APIs or SOAP APIs in general. In terms of in-network, right, all of the different things that live within your network, whether it's on premises in traditional data center, right, where you may have where you own the buildings and pizza racks and servers, or how many organizations have expanded their network, right, but still within the firewall connected through VPN and VPCs, right, such as an AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, and so forth and so on. So the execution clusters, collectively called Snapplexes, come in two flavors. There's a SaaS host called Cloudplex, which really means it's offered as a turnkey. We deploy it anywhere in AWS where you'd like, any region. In this case, it's appropriate for running integrations where all of the sources and targets are accessible from the public cloud. Now, if you have integrations where at least one of the endpoints lives behind the firewall, then you would run it on what we call a groundplex, which is a bit of a misnomer. It again can live in your data center, in your VPC, and so forth. And finally, the API management layer sits on top of that. And so, you know, mobile apps, web applications, IoT devices can make requests to execute APIs that are running on these Snapplexes, but the policies would be executed first, right? Such as rate limiting and throttling and so forth and so on. So let's move into the demonstration. Oh, and actually one more thing. And this is kind of a focused view of SnapLogic API Management specifically. The SnapLogic components that support the API lifecycle are as follows: API Manager, API Designer, API Gateway, Policy Manager, API Portal, and API Analytics. All right, so here we are logged in into elastic.snaplogic.com, right? And this is the designer view. And this pipeline is the one that was featured in the earlier slide. It was built from scratch, right? So you can see it's actually a microservice style API, and the back end is actually a SQL Server database. And this one's designed, it can be able to get, put, post, delete. In other words, right, read, update, write, delete, and all the logic for taking the input, calling SQL Server, and then formatting the response are embodied here with just a few snaps. Now, once we've done that and tested it, the next thing is we want to apply the policies. So if we go over to the SnapLogic Manager, let's go to where my project is, where it contains that pipeline. As you can see, there it is. Now, if we look at the policy manager, manage API policy, you can see the policies that have already been applied and additional policies that I could also choose from. So for example, we have the client throttling on, and we could alternately also also have OAuth mediation, like to OpenID connect to a ping instance that I configured before, but it's currently disabled. Let's actually run a request against this API just to demonstrate that. So here's the URL. And as you can see, first of all, it's very performant end-to-end. It's using an ultra pipeline capability, 255 milliseconds end-to-end. And in fact, if I make a few requests, we'll see the rate limiting policy kick into effect. There you go, 429. So now that we've gone through and configured the policies that we want to use, we're ready to now start managing the life cycle of this API. So I want to actually deploy it and manage the version. So we have the API manager. And what I had done previously is created this version 1 of customer API. And you can see it has the assets that I migrated across, as well as we'd already published it. And so in fact, it'll be already deployed as a version. In fact, it already is. So we'll see the actual versionizer like this. It should be up and running. So this is the actual live API that's applying the policies and it's using our lifecycle manager. That's the version. So now let's look at what is involved with the portal. Let's talk about that. So, this button will get you to the portal manager. Now let's actually, so this is the portal manager, right, where you can see the APIs that have been published and so forth. You can deprecate, right, and so on. This is the actual developer portal. If I go back to the catalog view, you'll see when I look at the customer category, this is the OpenAPI spec, right, formatted graphically for a developer to come in and be able to kick the tires. I'm able to view the request, the response. It tells me what the patterns are that it needs, right? Where does the in this RESTful pattern, where does the customer ID go, and so forth, and anything else about this API that I would need an application developer to know. Now, a new feature in the developer portal is that, and by the way, you can now register as an external user, right, an application developer, without having access to SnapLogic itself. You can register for access to the developer portal, and you can see it's branded here for this hypothetical company called Connect Faster. Now, once you're in here and logged in as a approved portal user, right, then you can have a workflow where someone has to approve you. You also see that you can actually define applications, right? Meaning, well, I'm creating an application and I want to use this customer's API. And so actually created this app called Test App. And as you can see, it generated a client key and secret. Now, the token will be, so now with using some of the policies, you can provide this information at runtime, right? The API developer of the application would make requests and then be given permission to execute the API as well. Let's look at the subscription feature from the other end, right? So if we look at applications, here's that application that I registered and was approved, right? It had to, and you could revoke it if someone's, misusing it or in some way, or you want to revoke their ability to use your API, right? Your organization's API, then you can do that as well. So I think that was a good high-level view of how API management in SnapLogic works.
Do you want to go back to the slide? So before we go to the questions, I just want to cover a couple of summary resources, and then I invite all of you to put your questions in chat, and we'll answer them. But before we go there, I just wanted to remind you that you have a number of resources that are available to you. So if you are not a SnapLogic customer, you can test drive SnapLogic for 30 days by signing up for free trial. If you are a customer already, you can definitely sign up to get your complimentary training, get certified, and get this badge that you can put on LinkedIn. And also, if you haven't already done so, please join us in the community. Communities where you can get questions answered from your peers, from other companies, and also from SnapLogic employees and SnapLogic experts. And then finally, there are a number of resources that are available to you, like how to best implement SnapLogic. So you can get that from the resources section of SnapLogic website. So with that, I'm gonna go to the questions. So again, let me remind everyone, please type in your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box. Yeah. So the one question is, okay, do we require to enable any settings to view API management in the left navigation? And the answer for that, Neeraja, is yes. API management is a subscription feature, and it will be available to you once your org subscribes for API management. Okay, and I know so with respect to some of the items that you showed, Ohad, I wanted to bring in or just kind of remind the users. So you showed how a application developer can sign up using self-service in a developer portal. So first thing is they don't need the access to the SnapLogic platform. Is that right?
Correct.
Right. And then when when they sign up for an application, they get a key. And is there if that key is compromised for any reason, is there a way for them to like, do they have to talk to an admin to get a new key, or how does that workflow work?
If you notice, while I was showing that screen, there was a regenerate option. So if
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so as in they can just regenerate the key and then use that new key in their app, and they'll be good to go.
Correct.
Right. Okay. That's great. I know one from the survey, one of the top responses that the audience has is that one of their goals was to enforce, like, they have different customers within their internal teams, and they want to enforce different quality of services for those different groups. So how does SnapLogic API Management enable them to do that?
Sure. And when we say different quality of service, it can also be interpreted as one group may have priority where they can do 10 requests per minute, and some may be able to do 20 requests per minute, or so forth and so on, whatever agreements have been established.
Right.
And that can be managed through policies such as the authorized by role and client throttling in concert.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Then I know. So based on some of the conversations that I'm sure you have had with customers, one item that comes up is, does the API management feature support third-party APIs? So do you have any insight into that?
This will be supported in an upcoming release.
Okay. So we have so as of today, we can manage APIs that are either created on the SnapLogic platform, all right, and we'll be supporting the third-party APIs in an upcoming release, and I think within the next 3 months. I think that's great. Any other insights that you want to maybe touch upon? That we have a couple more minutes into this demo. Yeah. So if I go back to the poll question, one of the another option that customers or audience picked was that they wanted to secure APIs that were exposed to customers and partners. So can you maybe go back to the platform to maybe delve a little bit into
Sure,
what are the different ways in which they can secure APIs? Maybe we can spend some
sure.
time
Talk
there.
about the different authentication methods. Sure.
Right.
Let's go there. So we support, OAuth in terms of authorization code flow as well as client credential flow. So I have two examples here that I've configured and used at different times. For the three-legged OAuth, as they call it, I actually have defined my application. We support OAuth mediation in a sense. If you think of the OpenID Connect as a paradigm, it uses whatever your identity provider is for everything, and then you can use it for APIM as well. So this is an example where I've defined instead of defining, I've actually defined the OAuth provider in GitHub. And so it does the mediation, and I've defined the callback and all of that. And so that's done here on the back end. Another example would be for the client credential flow. I have an instance of ping identity or ping federate, right, which we see in quite a few organizations. And so similarly, for those type of things, you define the application in ping, and then when the request comes in, so first of all, you create a pipeline that's basically creating the token endpoint, which is then doing actually it would be the authorized endpoint where you provide your credentials, and then it would pass you back the token. So the application, right, the calling application would first make a request to one API that we would set up that would be basically an API operation that would authorize it, and then it would have the token in hand, and then it could make a request to the actual data endpoint, like like we just showed you here, like the client, this one. And this is an example of using the JWT. This is from the OAuth interaction that comes from that. And so this introspect URL lives within ping, and so that's another example. So OAuth was popular, so we support it in that way. We can talk about some of the other policies a little more detail. IP restriction, of course, is also commonly used. You can constrain the request size limit. Obviously, there's CORS support. If your API is designed with simpler authentication, the API key authenticator works, in concert with the application, creating the application in the dev portal.
Yeah, that's great. So I think with all these different policy types, one question comes to my mind. So when you have these different policies that are applied to say one version of the API, and when you say create a new version, are they carried over, or how does how are those policies applied?
Well, basically, you create the version from the project here. So I change the original project, change the policies, and then create version 2, and that becomes the version that I'm pointing to. So each one will have so let's say you want to deprecate version 1 at some point, then so they can live independently, right? So you could have version 1 with whatever my version 1 policy configuration was, and version 2, they can coexist until you deprecate them that has a different configuration. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah, definitely. And I think I also want to remind or just want to state here that, yeah, we have a hierarchy of policies, right? So if I remember correctly, Ohad,
that is correct.
You can have, so you can set top level. So in the top level folder, you can set up some policies that then will be applied to all the containing folders and all the APIs within those folders.
Correct, and that applies to for example, you're familiar with SnapLogic. There are project spaces and projects. you can have policies assigned at different levels. So example here at the project level, it's going to get applied to every pipeline that I'm going to basically enable as an API.
Right.
And then it'll inherit from the higher levels if there was some sort of overarching policy that you want to apply.
Right. And that's, I think that's a great structure that really allows an API developer to make sure that you have a certain set of ground policies that are applied to everything, and then you can have more granular policies based on the specific use case, which is great. We are almost at the end of our session, so I want to thank you again, Ohad, for your time. Really
pleasure.
Great demo, and really great insight into what you have heard on customers on various challenges that they're trying to solve with API management. So thank you very much.
Very welcome. Thank you all.